So this video is going to be about deconversion without dismissal. And I'm going to get to that by explaining my journey. Uh, I grew up as a Baptist Christian or a Protestant Christian, as you could say. And that means I grew up with Jehovah and Jesus and the Holy Ghost, as we called it, right? And I went to church a lot, read a lot of the Bible growing up, and a lot of it literally was unquestionable to me for a lot of years, up until I was about 16. And then that was when I was introduced to Islam, or at least a form of Islam, through the Nation of Islam. And luckily, a great man came through and taught me a lot of things that opened my eyes to what I could explore in the future. Had it not been for a spark, had it not been for someone showing me something else, I wouldn't have known what could be or what I know now. So I'm thankful for moments that I had years and years ago that taught me that there could be something else than just Christianity. That there could be something else than just being a Baptist and believing in Jesus and Jehovah and the Holy Ghost. But even then, I still didn't get all the answers that I was looking for until I did my due diligence and looked into these things. And when looking into the Bible and the Quran and the Tanakh or the Torah, whatever you want to call it, looking into these books, learning about the Septuagint, the Pentateuch, the Dead Sea Scrolls, Codex Sinaiticus, and all of those things, you end up learning that there's a lot more to this than just reading the Bible. You have extra biblical texts, you have the Apocrypha, you have other Jewish texts, you have text that is long lost, you have text that is mentioned in the Bible but has never been found. There's a lot to this. And a lot of these things are the things that atheists grab onto when they're deconverting. When they're deconverting, they say, well, look at all these issues. Look at all the plot holes. Look at all the details that are a little scarce. Look at all the scrutiny that we can apply to this when we really look at it. Like even the story about Yeshua, who we call Jesus, is very shaky. There's a lot of things missing that they want us to accept, but there isn't enough evidence to accept anything as being what we accept it to be today. There's not enough evidence to accept Yeshua or Jesus as being a God or even being the God. The evidence is not even within the text. The evidence comes from the dogma, which is not evidence. That's belief system. That's thoughts and opinions and statements that are put out by other people. But these are not things that they learned. These are not things that they went out here and gathered from the text. The text doesn't say some of the things in which that people believe. The text sometimes is contradictory. And when it's contradictory, I usually stick with the older inference, with the older reference. But a lot of people just stick with the reference that best suits their narrative, which is not good for the God that you're trying to defend. Because to be honest with you, due to monotheism, Yahweh is on his last leg. Because this is the true God of the Bible. The true God of the Bible, or at least one of the true gods of the Bible, is Yahweh. And Yahweh is on his last leg. Nothing else is holding Yahweh up except for Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. And they are failing or flailing at doing it, really. I'm not even going to say failing. They're flailing around trying to do it because a lot of information has come out, especially since the 1900s when we found a lot of the information about Ugarit and about other ancient Near Eastern cultures. As soon as we unlocked all of these other gates and we started walking in and seeing the evidence that all these other surrounding areas had, that Canaan lost due to Israel being sacked and Canaan being sacked, due to all these things happening, we had lost a lot of information. But now we have a lot of information that tells us that things aren't what we think. Things aren't as simple and dry and cut as we try to make it out to be. Yahweh needs his family again. Yahweh needs to go back to what Yahweh was, and that is the polytheistic God or the henotheistic God, because he doesn't work as a monotheistic God. He never was a monotheistic God. Yahweh never claimed to be omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. We have plenty of evidence of him not being that. And that's nothing against Yahweh. That's nothing against the Israelites. They weren't trying to make this claim. The claim is being made by later authors in the New Testament and by Christians afterwards. This is a claim that is being made by Muslims afterwards. This is a claim that is being made by Jews afterwards. They weren't making this claim. People have to realize that the Bible was written by multiple perspectives, at least 12 or more. If you just look at the text and see what the text is telling you, there are 12 to 13 tribes and even 14 or 15, depending on how you want to look at it, because we see that there are many different sources. We got the J document, the E document. We got the Deuteronomy documents and all of those things, right? We got all these different versions of where this Bible could have came from, but we don't look at the people it came from. We don't look at the theology it came from. We don't look at the culture it came from. We don't look at the surrounding area anymore. Yahweh didn't exist in a vacuum. The Bible has Yahweh in Edom. You know who's in Edom? Quosh. The Bible has Yahweh trying to go into Moab. You know who's in Moab? Shamash. Tries to go into the Amorite territory. You know who's over there? Amudru. Tries to go into the Ammonite territory. You know who's over there? Milcom. Tries to go into Tyre. You know who's over there? Melkort. Why are we ignoring this? And then Yahweh isn't acting as if these gods don't exist. The Israelites aren't acting as if these gods don't exist, because the Israelites, they are Canaanites. They worshipped a pantheon of deities called the Elim or the Elohim. And once we restore this idea, maybe we can look at things differently. Maybe we can see this as a cosmology of deities. You know what I'm saying? Instead of trying to point the finger at one deity and say, you did this, you did that. Because then that's what makes God look bad, is when you try to pin it on one God and say that this one God that is limited is responsible for this unlimited universe that we can't even understand based on our limited capacity to understand something so exponential. So instead of blaming Yahweh, instead of blaming Baal Hadad, acting like there's a devil after you, and even blaming Muhammad, acting like he's acting like Baphomet is after you, none of them are after you. The gods that the Canaanites and the people of Ugarit and the ancient Near East understood, the Elohim that they understood, they occupied roles. Don't look at them as agitators or perpetrators. Look at them as instantiators. They instantiate things. Yahweh instantiates biogenesis alongside Asherah, who is the goddess of life, alongside him being the god of life. We see Baal Hadad instantiating atmospheric pressures. We see Astarte. She is instantiating the love and war aspects or selective pressures that we see in nature. Natural selection, right? That's what her and Anat are doing. But they are also representing the spectrum of femininity when we see them paired with their mother Asherah. She represents the mother. She represents the sovereign. She represents the war. You know what I'm saying? We see this. We see the high sky fathers. We see the mountainous fathers. We see the gods of the waters. We see the gods of chaos, the gods of order. We see El Elyon as the orderer. We see Asherah as the reproducer. We see Ramaya as the mercy. We see Dagon as the sustenance alongside his consort Shalash. That is how they viewed these gods. We see Yahweh as the source of life, because that's what Haya means. When they were saying Yahweh, they were saying he is. That's why Yahweh said his name is I am. He said Aya Asher Aya, because that is I am. But when the Israelites were talking to each other, they say he is Yahweh instead of Aya. But that is because they are talking about something deeper than just a monotheistic God. They're talking about a whole pantheon. That's why they said, blessed are thee by Yahweh and his Asherah, because Asherah is one of the keys to creating life. But we ignore these things for the monotheistic God, and then we point the finger and try to undo religion, try to undo theology. We try to destroy it when we should restore it. So that's my goal. My goal with my series is to restore theology so that way people will know Yahweh isn't evil, Baal Hadad isn't evil. There is no Molech. His name was Milcom. Ashera isn't just a tree or a pole. She was the mother goddess to them. El Elyon isn't just a phrase. He was the Most High God to these people. And one day you will learn this.